Nostalgia is quite an interesting topic. For many people, nostalgia helped create their childhood, and gave them plenty of reasons to love what they loved as a child. For some, they let nostalgia cloud their judgment on something, and won't let them see things for what they truly are. And then for some, nostalgia gets hopes up about something they experienced as a child, only to be greatly disappointed as it was not what they remembered or expected. There is one game that I am nostalgic for, and that I have no idea how objectively good it really is. That game is Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2. I've been playing this game for years, well over 10 years now, and every time I go back to it, I enjoy it more and more. But it's kind of odd, isn't it? A PS2 game that isn't that graphically impressive, and isn't that well received critically, yet I still adore it. I would like you to join me today as I go through this game bit by bit to see what I see in it, and see if it's even worth my time. Let us begin. First off would be the story, definitely one of the weaker aspects of the game. Naruto, our ever so lovable or not so lovable protagonist, is coming back from a mission until he is stopped by Kankuro. He tells Naruto that something is up, and that they need to get back to the village at once. Once at the village, they are attacked by puppets, and these are the enemies of the game. They are known as the Shirogane clan, and their goal is to revive their clan since most of them went the way of the dodo. Now there are only 3 members left. Menno, the sadistic girl in charge of the self-destructing puppets, Gonzo, the person who controls the cannon-type puppets, and the closest thing to an interesting villain this game gets, but it's killed off right when he had a hint of interest, and then Ibushi, the old man who is their leader and commander of the blade-type puppets. How do they plan on reviving their clan? Well, that's where the MacGuffins of this game come in the form of the Spirit Orbs. Though throughout the story you're just trying to secure the one Spirit Orb in the Land of Fire, so I guess just MacGuffin. Once they get all 5 of the Spirit Orbs, they can revive the Master Puppet, which is basically bad news for the 5 Great Nations. And so, our group of ninjas set out to fight bandits allying themselves with the Shirogane clan themselves, and to obtain and possibly destroy the Spirit Orb. The story is serviceable, nothing more. We find out who the Shirogane clan are and what their goals are, but we rarely see anything interesting from them. They are just the bad guys for bad guys' sakes. After completing certain requirements, you get access to Kakashi Saga. You would think that this would be used to expand the story and villains, but no. Kakashi gets word that the Akatsuki are doing some shady things near the village, Kakashi checks it out, and that's it. They just find out that they don't want to capture Naruto yet, and that's it. What a waste. Though to be fair, this part of the game, writing-wise, feels the most Naruto-like. That's probably the best thing about this story, is that it feels like they got the original writers to make a story for the game. It also helps that all the voice actors return for their roles in this game, adding to that sensation of playing a Naruto game. The whole story takes place during the downtime between the Sasuke retrieval arc and the start of Shippuden, so this is essentially a filler episode/arc that just passed as a game instead of a series of episodes. Actually, that's the perfect way to describe it. It's just a filler arc with not a lot going on. At least it's better than when Mizuki came back as a furry. Yes, that did happen. Well, the story certainly isn't what kept me coming back to the game, I'll tell you that much. It was everything else. The game is set up like a 3D beat-em-up, with some bits of platforming in it. You have basic light attack and heavy attack buttons, as well as buttons dedicated to specials and ninja weapons. There are so many options going into combat that it's not even funny. Certain button combinations between light and heavy attacks give you different combos. For instance, Naruto's full light combo hits the enemy into the air, and then he slams the enemy down, which does alright damage, but at the end, hitting a heavy attack instead lets him do a sort of crescent kick, hitting the enemy higher, and letting you continue the combo. Combinations with different buttons let you do different things, like hitting the jump button alongside the light and heavy attack buttons, letting you do a low attack and a high attack respectively. There are also aerial variants, attacks off of wall jumps, dash attacks, a bunch of stuff. Movement doesn't feel all that bad either. It's not perfect, especially when you're asked to do platforming, but movement on the ground feels just right, and there is even an air dash you can purchase, which is very fun to use and abuse. That's not enough for you? How about the special attacks, which each character has 3 of, minus Naruto, who has 5 because he's a special child. They are all different for each character, excluding the cloned moveset of Lee and Might Guy. Spam shadow clones with Naruto, have access to a counter with Kakashi with his Sharingan, deflect all incoming attacks with Neji, heal for pitiful amounts with Sakura because she's useless, and don't even get me started on Konkuro. His third special, Wild Dance, is a little tricky to use, but aim it just right and he just shreds through everything, even bosses. But the fun in gameplay doesn't stop there, because they have this thing called the skill plate. This is an ingenious way to put in an equipment system that I think more games should utilize. What do you do with it? Well, throughout the game you get different skill chips from treasure chests, the shop, or missions. You place them on the grid and it enhances your characters. Simple stuff like stat buffs or stat trades, to more interesting things like more movement options, access to the character's third special, and increasing the gains and likelihood of rewards from enemies. However, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Each item is categorized by color. Red is taijutsu, blue is ninjutsu, and green is just other. Whenever you fill out your skill plate completely, the category with the most skill chips placed gets a boost. 50% taijutsu attack for red, 50% ninjutsu attack for blue, and 50 more HP and chakra for green. On top of all this, every character has different skill plates to their own, and different skill chips they can use. For instance, there is this item that increases your HP by 100, but can only be equipped by Choji and a few other characters. This makes filling the skill plate out very fun and very rewarding, as it feels like there are infinite possibilities for every character. The only thing I wish this thing had was some music, because setting everything up with complete silence is just kind of tiring. But on the topic of music, this is another great attribute. There are so many great pieces to this game that go completely overlooked just because this game isn't very popular. There are also a lot of reused tracks from the first Chronicles game, but that doesn't matter because it's still pleasant to the ears. It has its stinkers, like the Puppet Factory theme, which is just plain boring, but it also has many amazing songs still in it. The boss theme for the bigger puppets is pretty funky, and it fits perfectly. The theme for the swamp near the end of the game, while kind of repetitive, gives the sense of finality to it all, along with the theme that plays inside of the final Shirogane clan base. The theme for the final boss is just incredible, and I get chills every time I listen to that song that plays during the approach of the bandit stronghold halfway through the game. The soundtrack to this game is just great. Nothing will ever take that away from it. Now, what does this game have in terms of content? Well, I should start by saying that the game isn't that long. 100% completing this game only takes about 20 hours, and doing a regular playthrough of the story is around half that length. At the start you can only do story mode, which plays out like an action-adventure game. Objectives range from taking out a certain amount of enemies, or just exploring an area and getting to the end. No matter the task, combat normally takes precedence, with there being some platforming challenges thrown in there at times. In total there are 11 chapters, and beating these chapters get you characters from other modes. You start out with Naruto, Konkuro, and Kakashi. Beating chapter 1 gives you Sakura. Beating chapter 2 gives you Neji. Beating chapter 3 gives you Shikamaru. Beating chapter 5 gives you Lee. Conquering chapter 6 gives you Choji. Triumphing over chapter 8 gives you Guy. And then finally, destroying chapter 9 gives you Gaara. After beating the game, you can go through a sort of New Game Plus, where you get to keep everything and go through story mode again. I think the enemies have more stats than before, but since you retain everything from last playthrough, it will most likely be a breeze. After going through the game a second time, you gain access to Sasuke for other modes. Sadly, you can't go through the story with whatever character you want for New Game Plus. If you're playing through Chapter 1, you can only use Naruto, Kakashi, Sakura, Chapter 4 with Naruto, Shikamaru, Konkuro, and so on and so forth. After beating Chapter 1, you gain access to missions and survival. Missions are a sort of callback to the first game's structure, and thankfully they are all optional. There are about 46 of them, having you complete different tasks, ranging from beating a certain amount of enemies under a time limit, hunting down a boss rogue, to protecting precious cargo, and all the way to picking up lottery tickets. Yes, that last one is real, and it's very painful. Completing all of them gives you Kakashi Saga, and after beating that you gain access to Itachi and Kasame, only in 2-player battle mode though. Such a missed opportunity. Survival pits you up against waves of generic enemies and bosses in a time limit. While in survival, you can't use items or change the skill plate around, so make sure you are well prepared. If you wanted a challenge and the base game didn't give you one, these might help fill that void. Many of the early missions aren't all that bad, but some of the later ones get pretty hard. The callback battle with the Mantis has a pretty tight time limit, and he's super tanky for having only 2 health bars. There's this one where you have to fight all the boss puppets in a row, and then the last one where you have to fight both of the Sand Ninja at once, and then finally both Akatsuki members. It's tough, especially for those characters who aren't that strong at base level like Sakura and Neji. Complete every survival mission with one character, however, and you get that character's best skill chip, granting them a great stat boost. If you want to get them all, then good luck because it will be a long and hard road. And no matter how many GameFAQ guides might say otherwise, doing every survival mission with every character will not unlock Tamari. It's a shame too, she's in the game's story mode but never actually fights. Now then, why exactly do I like this game? I've played many games around the time I played this one, so what makes it any more special than any of those? I personally think it's because of 2 things. One being replayability, and the other one just being nostalgia. No matter how many times I play this game, I never get tired of it. I get something new out of it every time I play it. For one of my most recent playthroughs, I was in the tower in Chapter 10. I saw the pillar that I was supposed to go down and thought, what if I tried wall jumping up there? I tried it out and I found a secret area where you get an exclusive skill chip for Shikamaru. Every time I play this game, something like that happens. New magic that brings me back to simpler times, like my first time playing the game. These 2 things, replayability and nostalgia, make this game priceless. Is it good objectively? Is it worth your time? I might never find out. I might not ever be able to see this game for what it truly is. But I'm fine with that, because in this case, nostalgia gave me exactly what I wanted. I love this game. I've played it many times in the past, and I will play it for many more years to come. Thank you for listening.
Hey, host me speaking here. I'd just like to thank you again for watching this video up until the end. And also, I would like to give a very special shout out to my pal, Fanciful Arsonist, who did the thumbnail for this video. So if you have any interest in the art that he does, please follow the link down in the description below to get into contact with him.